Hello, everyone. We're so glad you're here. My name is Ashley Browning, and I'm on the marketing team here at SOCi. On behalf of SOCi, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join us in this webinar in partnership with ActiveCampaign HQ. Before we get started, I'd like to briefly run through a few housekeeping items. First, addressing the number one question we received. Yes, this session is recorded and can be rewatched or shared. You'll receive an email with details on that later this week or early next. Feel free to ask questions at any time during this presentation. We'll answer as many as we can during the Q&A session and follow up directly if we miss any. Lastly, a post-event survey will open up in a new tab as you exit the webinar. Please take a minute to answer these questions, share feedback, and suggest future topics you'd like to explore. Now I'm thrilled to introduce our speakers and subject matter experts for today's session. Matt Clare is the Commercial Director of Franchise Sales at ActiveCampaign HQ. James Morse is the Vice President of Product Marketing at SOCi, and Guinevere Shawson is the Senior Strategic Partnerships Manager at ActiveCampaign HQ, who will be giving us a demo of the product today. James will be kicking off the discussion, so I will turn the time over to him. Take it away, James.
Thanks, Ashley. So one of the questions we're always getting is, what is SOCi? Who is SOCi? How do we want to think about that? Try to make this as simple as possible. We like to think of ourselves as the system of record for every storefront or location that a brand owns. And there's a lot of different terms for this. Actually, when Matt and I were chatting, kind of prepping for this, we're talking about how we use different terms. We've heard different terms, anything from multi-location, channel, franchise, just local marketing. That's how we think about this. So when a location manager needs to update their Sunday hours because they're different, they make that change in SOCi. And then that change ripples out across Google, Apple, Facebook, and then even through our new integration, straight into the variables within ActiveCampaign that it drops into its templates. And then so your next morning's promo, when it hits the inboxes, it has the correct hours. No one needs to have to learn HTML, or what I end up doing is just Googling HTML on how to do it. And then ultimately your customers never drive to a locked door, which is the goal. So that foundation of clean, consistent data really starts to unlock a stronger search performance. And our platform watches local search signals in real time. It spots gaps and it quickly fixes so that each location crawls higher in the results that a customer actually clicks, no matter where that is. It could be Google, it could be within your social content, it could be where you're probably searching things now in ChatGPT. Then we focus on reputation. So every type of Google, Yelp, Facebook, really wherever you're leaving reviews, they land in one inbox so that you can respond to them, or our AI is trained to create and post a thoughtful reply without a local manager ever needing to access the platform. And that's all brand compliant. And then finally with SOCi, we focus on social. So as we think about local marketers, they're always looking for how to engage with their customers in a social-like way. And the corporate brand's always worried that they're doing it in the wrong way that's not brand compliant. So this really allows that single calendar for a brand team to create a post once, and then it's localized outwardly for every market. And then they can be routed for a thumbs up if that's necessary, if you need that approval. And it's scheduled to publish across every channel. Again, taking that need off of the local marketer, because what Matt and I will talk a lot about today is that at the end of the day, they're not really local marketers. They're business owners in a lot of ways who are having to wear that local marketing hat. So really, this is where SOCi comes together. And just to give you a quick example, because I know I've kind of rambled here, is if I contextualize this a little bit, think about it as a 200 location bank that's maybe rolling out new summer hours and a new mortgage rate. So operations edits those hours within SOCi. Listings are updated everywhere. Your ActiveCampaign emails pull those new hours automatically. Search rankings then tick up because profiles stay perfect. And then that first "thanks for opening early" review appears, and then a response is then sent quickly afterwards. Meanwhile, then the brand post about the new mortgage rate that hits Facebook and Instagram for every branch at noon sharp. It's already approved, it's already localized, and headquarters can start to see how those cities and townships are driving that rush. And this is really where we work closely with our brands to control that digital space in a local way.
That's great, James. Thanks for kicking us off. Really excited for the conversation today and, of course, this partnership. I'd like to take a step back introducing ActiveCampaign HQ and start with ActiveCampaign. For those that may or may not be familiar, we've been around for over 20 years, servicing over 180,000 customers globally for their email, SMS automation, as well as their CRM needs. And over the past 5 years, we've really found consistent demand for our platform amongst franchises, partners, and multi-location businesses. To the extent that through an acquisition a few years ago, we actually began the process of building out a purpose-built solution with them in mind called ActiveCampaign HQ. Fast forward to today, we've invested heavily in a system that effectively serves as a control center for a marketer of a distributed business or multi-location business. And unlike most marketing platforms, it gives those marketers the ability to set permissions, drive campaigns and automation centrally, while also providing the controls and visibility to allow a local franchisee or local marketer to execute campaigns as well. And this orchestration layer on top of ActiveCampaign's core marketing solution ultimately provides unlimited scalability, but also the flexibility allows stakeholders to drive hyper-localized marketing activity without compromising brand integrity or overinflating the cost of the system. Multi-location businesses and franchises in particular really have to stick by the rule of keeping central costs under control as they grow and allow that to be a conduit to profitability and more effectiveness over time. And that's the lens we look through when we think about product development, but also pricing and how we commercially partner with multi-location businesses. And through all this, we found tremendous opportunities to partner with large brands to learn more about their use cases and continue to add on to the solution. And that's also part of how we've been able to move forward with partnerships like the one we're going to talk about today with SOCi, which brings more value to those customers.
Thanks, Matt. I love this overall. There's been so many times where we've been working with our clients at SOCi and they'll ask, hey, what do you guys do on the email front? And this has always been that gap. So really thinking about, how we've approached local and why that consistency matters, this really starts to heighten with this type of partnership. Because when we think about really today, a customer's path to a doorstep, to a physical doorstep, it's never a straight line. Maybe it's just rarely a straight line, right? For me, I was recently traveling and I wanted to find a coffee shop that morning. So what did I do? I went to Google, I went to ChatGPT, I tried to find coffee near me. I ended up pulling up my Apple Maps that morning to figure out what the fastest route was. And if I wanted to do it along a run that morning, I hopped over to Yelp reviews to see how that was looking. I even pulled them up on Instagram and Facebook to see if they posted recently. I kind of wanted a croissant, so I wanted to see if they had pastries. This is the type of experience that we're going through. And then if I have an email promotion, I'm probably clicking that along the way. So even my personal experience can look like fragmented disaster at the end of the day. And that's how we think about this, is that we really are in this reality of fragmented search. And so it means that location data really has to be flawless everywhere. I think the numbers on this slide really spell out what happens when it isn't, right? 4 out of 5 consumers say that a wrong phone number or a mismatched business name is enough to erode their trust, which is kind of insane, but I think we've all experienced that in some way where you're just like, I don't know about this one. When you flip that around, a complete profile makes the consumer nearly 3 times more likely to view you as reputable. So just having the right information consistently. So we see that accuracy ultimately builds that level of confidence, but it also drives action. We're not just getting good faith from them, we're seeing them actually visit that storefront. And a fully filled profile boosts that chance that someone will visit by 70%. And the likelihood that they'll buy by 50%. So the numbers are actually very, very clear around why we need these types of consistency across. There's also a hard SEO penalty that we have to address to some extent. Brands that leave listings incomplete or unclaimed show up on Google's first page just 4% of the time. So it's a rarity here. And when in a world where our own buying journey starts with a search result snippet, that's effectively leaving these locations invisible. So that local consistency isn't just a housekeeping chore. Going back to kind of the beginning, and we think about these local business owners not as marketers. Most of them didn't go to school for marketing. They're wearing the marketing hat when they can. Adding a digital marketing hat makes that harder. This isn't just a chore for them. It has to become really a foundation for how they're going to be discovered and how they're going to bring in revenue in what is this fragmented search landscape. And so that's why we really want to focus on centralizing every address, hour, and photo only once, and then pushing that to every channel that a consumer and customer might touch, so that ultimately the brands at the corporate level win trust, they win visibility, and they win foot traffic in that single motion. And I think this is why you see such a clear partnership between us. It makes this entire consumer experience stronger. When you think about brands that are selling in that local way, once they cross just even 10 locations, even the simplest email turns into a spreadsheet nightmare. And Matt, we talked a lot about this. Like it's insane amount of work that we expect, even a franchisee to do when it comes to marketing at that level. You need every location's address, hours, you need their promos, but you also need that personalization that feels local, and you need that copy that stays on brand. And what I found very interesting when we've been talking through this is that those are a lot of times conflicting. We always want the copy to be on brand at the corporate level, but the local level wants their own personalization. There's this friction that happens. And that's exactly where the SOCi and ActiveCampaign partnership really shines. SOCi keeps the business data pristine, and ActiveCampaign HQ pulls all of those fields straight into the campaign logic. So the marketer only designs one template, and the platform automatically starts to build in those right versions. And the result is we can all think about for ourselves where we've gotten really poorly personalized marketing materials in our inbox before. This becomes more of an automated personalization that's accurate to the minute. So the brand teams that still hold the reins on look and voice and feel, they still have that control, while the local owners still get the flexibility that they're so hungry for, so that they can spotlight, whether it's a sidewalk sale next week, or it's a new promotion that they're going to be doing next month. And customers then receive an email that matches what they'll eventually find on Google and at the front door, so that experience feels seamless across every channel. And behind the scenes, those workflows that once took hours of copying and pasting, they run on autopilot for you. So it frees marketers to focus on strategy instead of what we think of as just dreaded spreadsheets. And because that system scales the same way your location count does, doesn't matter if you have 10 locations or you have 10,000 locations, that lift stays super light and the message stays super hyper local. So Matt, with that, I've talked a lot. You want to walk us through just some common challenges that we both see?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, everything you just described really leads to all the trade-offs that marketers have to make when there are so many manual administrative tasks that exist. And most are facing really, really similar challenges, whether they're a franchise business or a multi-location business outside of franchising. To start, a lot of what you just spoke of, marketers can spend their business hours of operations, their addresses, contact information for each location. And these tasks ultimately drain the team and they pull focus from the work they want to be doing, or else it just doesn't happen. And the story you shared a moment ago, James, around showing up at a store that's not open, that's something that is a direct threat to loyalty, not just for that consumer, but for their network as well. So that consistency is essential, and it's not something we can trade off. This integration is really built to change that and eliminating the busy work and allowing marketers to be able to make easier decisions on where they're going to spend their time, as opposed to having to dedicate an overwhelming amount of time updating 10 or 100 or 1,000 locations individually.
Matt, I love that. Real quick, I want to hit on something you said there because I think it's really powerful, is that most of the time the work's just not happening. And when we think about automation, that's always the fear from businesses, is like, wait a minute, is this going to take jobs? And I think that's the most powerful thing. It's like, this isn't like automation for this isn't, the intent is never to take jobs away. It's just to get the job done that's not being done at all today.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we'll talk more about scalability through this conversation, because as you start at 5 or 10 locations, as a multi-location brand, you can do a lot of things really well with a pretty lean team. But as I talked about at the beginning, keeping that team lean a lot of times is part of the business model, especially if you're looking at a franchise business.
Yeah.
But as you grow, keeping up with the commitment to deliver that quality and to maintain capacity, there's a lot of threats to that. There's just too many trade-offs at the end of the day. And this is where the rubber meets the road, is when we start to miss out on doing the fundamentals that set us up for really high quality engagement. beyond that, I talked about, we talked about someone showing up at a door that's closed when they expect it to be open. Brand consistency can really creep in at a number of different levels. If you're not following through with it on a corporate front, or if you're farming it out to the locations or the franchisees, it's very, very hard to know for certain what's getting done when, especially when updates have to be made. In franchising and in corporate businesses, there's a lot of good reasons to allow local teams to participate in marketing to maintain localization, where the central team maybe hasn't been able to historically do it. But when there aren't centralized controls and central visibility, messages can start to vary, visuals drift, brand trust erodes as inconsistent experiences become too consistent. And ACHQ, in partnership with SOCi, a lot of what we're trying to do is allow the business to really determine, who can do what while maintaining visibility and control at every turn and giving the flexibility to match up with the marketing's infrastructure so that the right things happen every single day. Similarly, another common challenge is having to juggle multiple tools for creating and executing campaigns. So with ACHQ, marketers can pull data in through integrations, be it their POS system or whatever operating system they'll use. But essentially, integrating with partners like SOCi is critical as well, so that they can localize their content, utilize that data to set up automations that are hyper-personalized across the entire network, but through one screen. And this ultimately leads to countless hours being saved, and it keeps the marketing engine moving fast, even as the business expands, and starts to limit the amount of trade-offs that have to be made as the company grows. With expansion, we know one of the biggest challenges is also maintaining personalization. So we've talked about localization. The face of the store needs to look right. You need to feel like a local business. But the next level is also connecting with each of your customers or prospects with the right message at the right times. And the trade-offs that are made is that central teams ultimately are usually forced to start bucketing their customers in much more generic ways, which will water down the message and ultimately make it less effective. And James, you already said it, but a customer knows when something's automated for a large group as opposed to being directed for them for a specific reason. And that's what we're trying to help our end users get to, is make sure that the message that gets there is the right message at the right time intended for them. And having an integrated multi-location marketing system like HQ with the right integrations with a company like SOCi makes it possible to maintain that hyper-personalization at scale with minimal incremental effort from the central team. And then, of course, there's visibility. This is a conversation we have a lot when we think about data. Data ultimately leads to bad assumptions and bad decisions and poor strategy. If anyone here is in marketing or sales leadership, we have to make big decisions on the data we have available to us. But if you have inconsistent adoption of a platform or inconsistent execution of a strategy, it's really hard to trust the outputs that you're getting. With this integration and this platform, because every account's ultimately working through the same system, marketers have clarity as to what's working, what's not working, and ultimately makes them more effective at testing, but also deploying campaigns that have great predictability, which is ultimately what we're trying to accomplish in driving the right results. Last point I'll make when it comes to challenges is less about the technical side of what we do and what we're trying to facilitate, but it's more about the service side. And both SOCi and ActiveCampaign have made it a point to invest in ensuring that service is a really big part of our offering, so that we are partnering to help drive the right results.
I think it's huge, especially when we think about typically software that gets handed off to teams. You still need that level of support and assistance. That goes a long way when we think of adoption. When we first sat down to discuss a partnership between SOCi and ActiveCampaign, we quickly realized that our organizations had something in common, a few things in common, I'd say, but a lot of it was that desire to make not just it easier for marketers, but to give marketers time back. Especially again, when we think about how local business owners they feel being forced to own local marketing in a lot of ways, but not do as much as they can or they want to when it comes to that type of localization. And again, these aren't typically marketers by trade. So giving them time back at the local level or even at the corporate level is super important. And Matt, I know this is something that you all have measured and seen great results in. So can you walk us through some of that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you hit on some really good points there. And it goes back to the service side and the consulting side of this as well. When you have local participants and central participants, figuring out who's going to do what, who's going to execute on what front, and what's realistic expectations is such a big part of it, because our goal ultimately is to get the marketing engine to a capacity and maintain capacity as you grow so that there's time saved, but there's also the right velocity of campaigns going out and the right quality of campaigns going out. And through that strategy and obviously the technology behind this, we consistently see our partners saving meaningful time, but also increasing the quality of their content and the capacity at which they can deliver personalized campaigns locally. On average, we've seen ACHQ save 10 hours of work per campaign. Specifically, one of our earlier partners went from doing 6 generic campaigns a year, which is not untypical of a group as they're kind of reaching that inflection point of a lot of success, a lot of growth, but the resources just haven't quite kept up. And they went from 6 generic campaigns annually to 34 hyper-localized campaigns across 100 plus locations. And the output of that is from their starting point to where they reached, were able to increase their open rates by 29%. Their click-through rates went up by 41%. And the big one from our perspective is their attributable orders from these campaigns went up by 600%. And that really speaks to the value and the impact of maintaining personalization and quality of content at a hyper-local level, even as you expand. And that's what we're driving towards when we bring on new partners.
I love this. Everyone's been asked for ROI. Now, you guys have heard enough from me and Matt probably at this point. Let's show you how this works. We're going to hand it back over to Gwen real quick to kind of walk you through this.
Hi everyone, I'm Gwen Shawson from the Strategic Partnerships team at ActiveCampaign. Today, I'm excited to demo our SOCi CX app integration. Let's start by acknowledging the real challenges you face. Franchisors need to keep brand messaging consistent everywhere, while franchisees want to quickly localize emails for their own markets. The solution? Well, the right tech stack lets you roll out a turnkey system that makes both possible, helping you scale efficiently, maintain brand standards, and lower your cost per location. Our integration is designed with these needs in mind, streamlining manual processes and putting automation to work for you. Before setting the integration up, let's talk about what makes this integration truly powerful, and that's the magic of message variables. Message variables are placeholders that store text or images, allowing you to easily insert personalized content into your email templates and one-time campaigns. The most common set of text we store in message variables is the address, business hours, phone numbers, and email signature. Each message variable is linked to a personalization tag. It is a special code that begins and ends with a percentage sign. You place these tags directly into your email content, and when the email is sent, the tag is automatically replaced with the corresponding message variable content. Let me show you a visual example. On the left-hand side, you will see an email campaign template with message variables in place for business hours, contact details, and your social media links. When the email is sent, your customer will only see the actual information displayed naturally in the message. This approach makes it easy to keep your information consistent and up to date across all your emails without having to edit each one individually. Now let's walk through the setup process with connecting your SOCi account with ActiveCampaign. After logging into your ActiveCampaign account, head on to our apps section of the platform. Type in SOCi in the top right-hand corner. Once you are in the app listing, click Add an Account to connect your SOCi account. To authenticate, you will need to use and have your SOCi API key and your subdomain. Hit Connect. Then you will be asked to select the SOCi account you are connecting to, the location in which you would like to sync, and the ActiveCampaign list of contacts that you would like to send your email to. Click Finish. To verify if your account is connected, the last updated field here will have a timestamp. Next, log into your SOCi account. Log into SOCi and head into the locations detail section of the location that is synced. Our integration will sync data from the profile, hours, and image tab. For a complete list of data being synced, please visit our help documentation. Once you have verified the information is accurate, click the Save button. Now we head back into our ActiveCampaign account, navigate to the email icon, and to your message variable section. Message variables will be automatically generated from your SOCi location that was synced into ActiveCampaign. To validate the data accuracy, you may click on the Edit button on the right side of the variable to review the data that was passed through. In this particular message variable, we have the address line 1, which is 6008 North Port Washington Road. When you look at the SOCi information that was saved for this location, you can see that address line 1 matches identical. Now let's head back into our ActiveCampaign account. With our auto-generated list of message variables, let's use them in our campaign templates. Head into our campaign template section and click the Edit button. You will be redirected to our email designer experience. And as you can see, we have different containers that you are able to modify and the ability to enter the message variables into your email. For example here, we currently don't have the message variable for Monday business hours. You click on the personalization tabs, scroll over to the message variables. You can use our search bar for looking for the Monday hours, and voila, it automatically populates the body of the email with the message variable. We are also missing a phone number. And of course, our social media URL. Once you have all of your message variables in place and you would like to see how this email looks like before it reaches your customer's inbox, you may click our test email icon on the top right-hand corner. Click send, and in our inbox, you can see the transformation from message variables into accurate location data. This ends our demo for today. I hope that you enjoyed the experience and see the value of reducing manual processes when localizing the email campaign templates for your franchisees.
Thanks, Gwen. So we've heard and seen a lot today, and we'll get to some audience questions here on the next slide. But Matt and James, if you were our viewers joining us today, what are your top 3 takeaways from this session?
Matt, you go first.
Yeah, happy to. I think the first thing is we talked about at the top and throughout is avoiding trade-offs, like not keeping location data up to date. Those are things that tend to fall off as you scale and grow, but having the right tools in place and the right partners, making sure that those things happen the right way every time, it's a really key fundamental to keeping, Secondly, I'd say personalization at scale can lead to tangible results. We saw that through the outputs of a couple of our partners, and making sure that you have the right tools to do that's essential. And lastly, that service and support can't be undervalued in this type of a partnership. When you're evaluating a vendor or supplier, making sure that they're going to be with you all the way through is really, really important.
I mean, Matt crushed that. I don't know if I have any good ones to add. I certainly don't have 3. Those are great. The only other one I would add to this is to keep in mind how fragmented search is becoming. And as a consumer, just think about it in your own lives about how you search for things and the need for that consistency, whether it's conscious or subconscious, you have that. So making sure that that's consistent across, so you make that path to purchase easier for your customers and you build that trust and you build that action from them, that's most important here. So how do we make sure that that's happening across every part of that journey that they're experiencing from your brand? That's super important. Does that help, Ashley?
Yeah, that was great. Thank you. Now we have just a few minutes left to open up the floor for questions. Please feel free to submit anything in the chat. And while we're doing that, make sure to scan this QR code as well to easily request a demo and then find more information on what was covered today. This one came in a little bit earlier. How long did it take to get all your locations up and running on both platforms?
I can jump in and take that one. So I think that in short, it can go very fast. But as you heard from John, onboarding for us, it's not just about setting up accounts and doing migrations, but deploying the platform purposefully. So, 90 days is the window that we'll usually schedule out the transition from the technical front for onboarding and warm-ups. But the partnership's an ongoing process where we're constantly working to help optimize your process and how the system's deployed to make sure that it's successful.
Great. Here's another good one. What is the most noticeable change after integrating SOCi and ActiveCampaign?
Ooh, Matt, you want to take that one?
Yeah, happily. I think the first thing to say, and you've probably heard it throughout, is you're able to do everything centrally. So it's way easier to add a new location or update details. We saw in Gwen's demo, setting that up so that you have the message variable in place. In the old world, that's something maybe you're doing for each location. In this world, you're doing it once, and that's getting pushed down to every single location in your network. So that starts with, the initial setup, but also anytime that you're going to make an edit or change an hour, you can do it once and have it be dynamic relative to the right locations so that you're saving tons of time on admin.
Awesome. James, I think you touched on this a little bit earlier, but how do you balance brand control with giving franchisees flexibility?
Oh, it's a great question. It's one of the main tensions within franchise marketing overall is like, what type of control do you give? I think even a little bit goes a long way. So even being able to localize that content, still having a rules-based approach to it to make sure that there's not something that's going at absolutely wild. But you need to give them a little bit because if you don't, ultimately they're just going to go do this themselves without you even seeing it, which is the worst case scenario. So giving them some sort of tool that gives them the control you need but a little bit of flexibility where it's not going to hurt your brand, that's the middle ground you have to find ultimately.
Yep. And then what improvement have you seen since rolling out this integration?
Yeah, I'll take this one. I think, the biggest thing we hear from our partners is that they're far more effective with local engagement and connecting with their audience on a local level, where, in the prior state, they're maybe a little more generic, a little more national. And through that are more relevant and maybe gain some more credibility with their audience, representing each location as a business within the community and not a business coming from the outside.
Okay, I think we've got time for just one more. If another franchisor is evaluating this integration, what advice would you give them?
I can take this one. I just do it at the end of the day. Like there's no reason not to. If you're trying to fix your location data, which is a problem that if you don't do it today, you need to be fixing that, this is a no-brainer, especially as you have in a franchise marketing, a distributed marketing, channel marketing, whatever we want to call it, that setup, like you need this consistency, whether it's when I go and search for you or I'm getting your email with your promotions, whatever it is, you need this. So like at the end of the day, we saw this partnership as a no-brainer because it is a no-brainer. And I think that's a no-brainer for anyone who's considering this integration at all. Like this just makes sense.
Definitely. Great. That's all the time we have for now. Thank you so much, Matt, James, and Gwen, for joining and sharing your thoughts in today's discussion. A big thank you to the audience as well for your questions and your engagement. If there are any unanswered questions from today's presentation, our team will follow up directly. Just a reminder that today's presentation was recorded and it will be emailed to all registered attendees. Also, we would love your feedback on today's webinar, so please complete the short survey that will pop up as you exit. But thank you for joining us, and I hope everyone has a great day.